The concert was halfway through. Amy Winehouse was singing, "Back to Black." Then suddenly she stopped. The silence in the room was so thick that everyone held their breath. The spotlight stayed on her. 2,000 people frozen. Her hand trembling on the microphone. Mascara starting to run. And in the third row, a man with his face in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. No one knew what was happening. The band kept playing for 3 more seconds before they realized. Amy wasn't moving. She was staring directly at that man. And then she did something no one expected. She stepped off the stage. But to understand why this moment shattered everyone in that room, we need to go back. Back to earlier that night, when a man named David bought a ticket he couldn't afford, to see a woman whose music had kept him alive. David's wife had died 6 months earlier. Cancer. 38 years old. 2 kids. Gone in 4 months from diagnosis to funeral. He stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. Stopped feeling anything except the weight of her absence crushing his chest every single morning. His sister forced the ticket into his hand. "You need to get out of the house," she said. Just this once. For her. She loved Amy. His wife had played "Back to Black" on repeat during her last weeks. She'd hum it in the hospital bed, even when the morphine made her forget his name. That album was the soundtrack to watching someone you love disappear in slow motion. So David went. Alone. Standing in a crowd of strangers who came to dance and drink and sing. While he came to feel close to someone who wasn't there anymore. Amy took the stage at 9 p.m. Camden's roundhouse was packed, hot, electric. She wore that black dress, the beehive hair, the signature eyeliner already smudged from the heat. Her voice raw and aching even on the upbeat songs. 3 songs in, she started. "Back to Black." The crowd erupted. Phones went up. People sang every word. But David didn't sing. He just stood there, tears streaming down his face, because this was the song. The one his wife hummed when she couldn't speak anymore. The one that played in his head at the funeral. And that's when Amy saw him. Subscribe now because what happens next will break your heart, and put it back together. She was halfway through the second verse when her eyes locked on David. A man in the third row, mid-30s, shoulders shaking, face buried in his hands. Not singing. Not filming. Just breaking. Amy had seen plenty of crying fans. People got emotional at her shows. But this was different. This wasn't emotion. This was devastation. This was someone drowning in public, hoping the music might pull them to shore. She kept singing, but her voice changed. Got quieter. More fragile. The band noticed. The audience noticed. Something was shifting. Then, at the bridge, she stopped. Just stopped singing midline. The band kept going for a moment. Then they stopped too. The room went silent. 2,000 people holding their breath. Amy lowered the microphone. Wiped her eyes. Looked directly at David and said loud enough for the front rows to hear. "You. In the blue shirt. Come here." David looked up, confused. People around him turned. Amy pointed at him. "You. Please. Come up here." Security moved toward him, unsure what was happening. Amy waved them off. "Let him through." The crowd parted. David walked to the stage like a man in a dream. Amy crouched down, reached out her hand, and pulled him up. Now he was standing on stage, under the lights, in front of everyone. She didn't let go of his hand. "What's your name?" she asked, microphone between them. "David," he whispered, barely audible. "David." She nodded. Squeezed his hand tighter. "Who was she?" The question hit him like a bullet. His knees almost gave out. "My wife," he choked out. Amy closed her eyes. Nodded again. "When?" 6 months ago." The room was silent. People in the back were standing on chairs trying to see. No one was filming yet. No one understood what they were witnessing. Amy turned to her band. "From the top," she said. "Slow it down." She looked at David. "This one's for her." Not for them. For her. You tell me her name, and I'll sing it for her. Okay? David's voice broke. Sarah. Amy Winehouse suddenly stopped mid-song. The entire crowd went silent. But here's the part no one expected, the part that changed everything. Amy started singing, Back to Black, again. But different. Slower. Stripped down. Just her voice and one guitar. And every line, every word, she sang it like she was singing at a funeral. Like she knew exactly what David was feeling because she'd been there too. Lost in her own grief. Drowning in her own pain. Halfway through, she changed the lyrics. Instead of, You go back to her, she sang, You go back to Sarah. And David collapsed. Just fell to his knees on stage sobbing, and Amy knelt down with him. Put her arms around him. Held him while he broke. The crowd was crying now. People who came to party were standing there with tears running down their faces. Because they were watching something sacred. Something real. A moment of pure, unfiltered humanity in a world that usually hides it. Amy didn't let go. She kept singing, even while holding him. Her voice cracking. Her own tears falling. Because she knew. She knew what it felt like to lose someone and have the world keep spinning like it didn't matter. When the song ended, the room stayed silent. No applause. No cheers. Just the sound of 2,000 people trying to breathe through the weight of what they'd just witnessed. Amy helped David stand. She took off the necklace she was wearing, a small silver pendant, and put it in his hand. She's still here, Amy whispered. In every song. In every memory. She's not gone. She's just different now. David nodded, unable to speak. Amy hugged him one more time, then signaled security to help him off stage. As he walked back to his spot, people reached out to touch his shoulder, his arm. Strangers offering comfort because they'd just been let into the most intimate moment of his life. Amy stood at the microphone, wiping her face. Thank you for letting me do that, she said to the crowd. We all lose people. We all carry them. Tonight, we carried Sarah together. And then, without missing a beat, she launched into the next song. But the room had changed. The energy had shifted. This wasn't a concert anymore. This was a communion. A gathering of broken people finding strength in each other's presence. If this story has touched you, share it now. Let someone else feel what you're feeling. And subscribe, because this isn't just a story. It's a reminder that we're all human. And sometimes that's enough. After the show, David went backstage. He didn't plan to. Security found him in the crowd and brought him back. Amy was sitting on a couch, smoking, exhausted, makeup smeared. She looked up when he walked in. You okay? She asked. He wasn't. But he nodded anyway. Amy stood up, walked over, and hugged him again. I lost my grandmother last year, she said quietly. Cynthia. She raised me. And when she died, I couldn't sing for 2 months. Every time I tried, I'd just break. So I get it. I really do. She pulled back, looked him in the eyes. You're going to be okay. Not today. Maybe not for a long time. But you will be. And Sarah, wherever she is, she's proud of you for showing up tonight. For still being here. David finally spoke. She loved you. Your music. It was the last thing she asked for. Play Amy, she said. So I did. I played Back to Black while she went. Amy's face crumpled. She hugged him again, and this time they both cried. Two strangers, connected by grief and music and the unbearable weight of loving someone who's gone. They sat there for 20 minutes. Amy didn't rush him. Didn't check her phone. Didn't worry about the next show or the next city. She just sat with him in his pain. Asked about Sarah. What she was like. How they met. What made her laugh. David talked and Amy listened, really listened, the way only someone who's lived through loss can listen. He told her about Sarah's last birthday. How she was too weak to blow out the candles, so David did it for her. How she whispered, "Make a wish for me." And he wished that she wouldn't hurt anymore. 3 days later she was gone. The wish came true, but not the way he wanted. Amy wiped her eyes. "I think that's the most loving thing I've ever heard," she said. "You gave her permission to let go. That's everything." Before he left, she signed the pendant she'd given him. On the back, in tiny letters, "For Sarah. Love, Amy." David still wears it every day. But something else happened that night. Something Amy didn't plan. The crew, the band, the people backstage, they all saw what she did. And it changed them too. Her guitarist later said it was the moment he understood why he played music. Not for fame. Not for money. But for moments like that. When music becomes medicine. Amy's manager tried to talk to her about it afterward. "That was beautiful," he said. "But Amy, you can't do that every show. You have a schedule. Contracts." Amy looked at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. "If I see someone who needs help," she said, "I'm going to help them. I don't care about the schedule." And she meant it. Over the next year, there were other moments. Not as dramatic, maybe, but just as real. A girl having a panic attack in the front row. Amy stopped the show, had security bring her water, talked her through it. An older man celebrating his 60th birthday alone. Amy sang, "Happy Birthday," and brought him on stage. A teenager wearing a hospital bracelet, fresh from chemo. Amy gave her the jacket off her back. That night became legend. Videos surfaced eventually. Grainy phone footage of Amy stopping mid-song. Of her bringing David on stage. Of her singing his wife's name into a room full of strangers. The clips went viral, but they never captured the full weight of it. The silence. The collective heartbreak. The way an entire room learned what it meant to hold space for someone else's pain. People who were there started finding each other online. Creating groups. Sharing their own stories of loss. Talking about how that night gave them permission to grieve publicly. To not hide their pain. One woman wrote, "I lost my brother that year. I was in the back of the venue. When Amy stopped, I felt like she was stopping for all of us. For everyone carrying something too heavy to name." The ripple effect was real. Therapists started using the story in grief counseling. Showing that sometimes witnessing someone else's pain, holding space for it, is the most healing thing we can do. Music teachers played the footage for their students, teaching them that technical perfection means nothing if you're not connecting with real human emotion. David started a foundation in Sarah's name, supporting families dealing with cancer. And every year on the anniversary of that concert he goes back to Camden. Stands in the same spot. Plays Back to Black. And remembers the night a stranger stopped the world to see him. Amy never talked about it publicly. Interviewers asked. She'd just smile sadly and say, "Some things are too personal to explain." But people who were there that night never forgot. They talk about it like it was a religious experience. The night Amy Winehouse stopped being a performer and became a witness. The night she reminded everyone that music isn't about perfection. It's about connection. It's about being brave enough to feel everything, even when it hurts. Her band members still get emotional talking about it. The drummer said in an interview years later, "We rehearsed that setlist 100 times. But that night, Amy threw it all away for one person. That's when I realized what it meant to be an artist. Not someone who plays songs, but someone who serves people." The venue staff remembers it too. The sound engineer kept the recording of that performance locked away. Never released it. Never sold it. He said, "Some moments are too sacred to commodify." That was one of them. What happened that night belonged to everyone in that room, and it should stay there. Even the security guard who helped David onto the stage talks about it. "I've worked thousands of shows," he said. "Seen every kind of chaos. But I've never seen anything like that." The way she looked at him. Like she could see straight into his soul. And the way the whole room just stopped. Like time itself paused out of respect. 3 years later, When Amy died, David was one of thousands who left flowers outside her house. He placed the pendant she gave him on top of the pile. Attached to it was a note. "You gave me my wife back for 3 minutes. I'll never forget. Thank you for seeing me, David." The pendant disappeared that day. Someone took it. But David doesn't mind. He says Sarah would have wanted it to go to someone who needed it. Someone else carrying grief like a stone in their chest. Someone who needs to be reminded that they're not alone. Amy's legacy isn't just her music. It's moments like that night in Camden. Moments where she broke every rule of performance to do the only thing that mattered, show up for another human being in pain. That's the Amy Winehouse they don't talk about enough. Not the tabloid headlines. Not the struggles. But the woman who saw someone suffering and stopped everything to say, "I see you. You matter. Your pain matters." And maybe that's the greatest thing any artist can do. Not just make people feel, but make them feel less alone. Share this story if it moved you. Comment below if you've ever had a moment where music saved you. And subscribe, because there are more stories like this. Stories of humanity breaking through the noise. Stories that remind us why music matters. Because at the end of the day, we're all just David in the third row. Hoping someone will see us. Hoping the music will make the pain a little lighter. And sometimes, if we're lucky, someone like Amy Winehouse steps off the stage and reminds us that we're worth stopping for.